She is WWE alum Charly Caruso, and she is now OutKick's Charly Arnolt, who worked for ESPN. It's big time, yes! I would love to talk to you first about you're bringing your talents to this national multimedia sports platform, OutKick. Tell us about OutKick and tell us what you will be doing for them.
Yeah, so I will be hosting a morning show for OutKick, which has been my dream. Anyone who's been following me for any length of time now knows it's really been something I've been manifesting, is getting a morning show, because I have the energy to wake people up in the morning, and I feel like the beautiful thing about a morning show is you have the ability to be the first point in someone's day where you tell them everything that they need to know and make them care about things that are important to you. So that's why I'm super excited to be here at OutKick, being given the platform that I've been yearning for such a long time, and also being given the freedom to really speak my mind in a way that I haven't been able to at my past any job. So this is awesome. You're going to get to know me better than ever, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm just super pumped to be a part of the OutKick team, which, as you know, hasn't even begun to hit its peak as far as what it's going to do and provide to audiences everywhere.
How did you land the job with OutKick? You're working for WWE, doing interviews and shows, and then you get the gig for ESPN. You're involved with UFC, doing interviews and multiple things. How did this come about for you with OutKick?
Right. So as you know, I was working for ESPN. I've been there for 5 years now, simultaneously for a couple of those years alongside WWE. With full-time with ESPN for the last 2 years. And then it was, probably about 6 or so months ago where I was starting to think about what's next. What do I want to be next for me? What makes sense for me? How do I grow into the broadcaster and person that I want to be? And I ultimately came to the conclusion that being at ESPN wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be. I was feeling like I wasn't able to be the most authentic version of myself. And it was at that same point in time when I was having these conflicting feelings that, coincidentally, OutKick reached out to me and kind of laid out what their mission was and how I could fit into that. And it was just such a serendipitous thing because it really was a no-brainer for me. When they kind of laid out what my position here could look like and what I would be able to do and the creative freedom that I would have, it was very exciting for me. So the process began about 6 months ago or so, and it was also a time that I was also working for UFC. I've been with UFC for almost a year now, and UFC is aligned with OutKick in so many different ways where they really just give their team and their talent the ability to be themselves, and they're not looking to suppress anyone's opinions because of any type of political agenda. And so it goes really nicely hand in hand with already what I'm doing at UFC. So it's a game changer for me. I'm really excited.
And Charly, what are some of the things, I guess even today, that are important to you? Because you're saying this is going to be a way to maybe express more of your opinion.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of opinions that I've already started sharing on Fox airwaves as it pertains to women's rights in the athletic space, because growing up a female athlete, I can't even imagine what many young females are going through in this day and age. And there's such a lack of women, and we're going to throw men into the mix. There's a lack of people who are unwilling to stand up for what women are going through because there's a little bit of the fear of being canceled or the fear of being shot down or not, continuing to, what's the word? A lot of people are scared. They're scared to speak up because of what might happen. There are repercussions for a lot of people that speak up in important moments these days. So I feel like there's a bunch of us who are kind of trying to find our voice, and I finally am in a place where I'm able to really reach deep and express my thoughts. So I'm excited about that. I also think just with COVID, we've experienced a lot of changes in our world. A lot of them have, been for the, I would say, decline of our society. And I'm just looking to help people who are feeling like they have not been heard the last few years. And also, of course, we're reaching entirely new audiences using social media and the streaming methods. So a lot of these traditional forms of media are more geared towards what have been traditional audiences. So I'm excited to, like I said, have a lot of creative freedom where I know what older people want, I know what younger people want, and kind of bridging those together to deliver a type of product that hasn't been seen before.
It's interesting in your journey because you've been in so many places, small places and big places. And I'm just curious, what have you learned about yourself in each, I guess, opportunity? What have you learned about yourself moving forward and just going through this whole process right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think with every step of my journey, I learned something new about myself. But I will say I do not feel like the person I am today is much different than who I was even coming out of college, going to my first job in West Virginia as a one-man band reporter. I've always been super opinionated, and, you know, in some jobs that's gained me advantages, and other jobs I think that's kind of been a little bit of a setback for me because I'm not someone who's just willing to sit on the sidelines and do exactly as I'm told when I'm told at all times. You know, there are times and places where I think being able to insert your opinion makes you a more valuable asset. But up to this point, that hasn't been so welcome. So I'm actually finally, I feel like, in a place where they're really encouraging me to speak up more and more. And I think just even in the short time that I've already been at OutKick and Fox, by being more outspoken and bold, has gotten me more and more opportunities just as even the days have gone by. I'm not even talking weeks or months at this point. I've only been here since mid-April, and already my opportunities have skyrocketed because I have been willing to take a bold stance on issues that a lot of people won't even speak up about at all.
You know, it's so interesting today because you mentioned about social media and just how we all have opinions and we all have freedom of speech, but sometimes that it seems like we're going backwards in a regard. I mean, but how do we know? And I guess we could say, you could speak for you, obviously, not for everybody else. How do you know not when to cross the line or how far that line goes? Because it's still an important thing. I think it's important for us to get our opinions out, but also not cross the line per se. Or do you feel different?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think here's the problem, Jim, is that there's a lot of things that people are too afraid to talk about, but we're all, I would say, many of us are on the same page about. So that's kind of the idea of, like, where does crossing the line really come in? Because a lot of the things that I'm saying right now are very much common sense, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. But we've gotten to a place in society and, you know, just like in our culture where even saying something that is purely common sense, it drums up such anger and emotion among people that it's a little bit confusing because I'm saying a lot of things that even now I don't feel like are crossing the line, and I've already been called some very hateful things for. But it kind of then makes you wonder, like, you know, do these titles even mean anything anymore? Because while I know they're untrue, and I'm really just speaking from a common sense standpoint, and I'm still being called them, do I even really care? I don't know. It's a very dicey situation, I think, in a lot of circumstances. But I think you just have to have the courage to speak up and hope that a lot of people realize where you're coming from isn't a malicious standpoint. It's just that a lot of people won't speak up, and so I'm made to look out, or not even me, but a lot of people who share more, well, controversial opinions now are being made to look like the bad guys, if that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense because we can agree or disagree respectfully and go move on and try to learn from each other. But I think what happens is there are people that just all of a sudden, oh, you don't agree with me or you have a different opinion than me, then I'm going to say this bad about you and I don't like you and all this. And it's like, and I think that, and the other thing that gets me is, Charly, is, hey, if you're going to say something, put your name to it. I cannot stand on social media all these little nickname, fake names, all this kind of stuff, and they're taking shots at people and comments and just things like that and all. My thing is, look, if you're going to say something, hopefully it's not going to be hateful, but if you're going to say something negative, at least put your name to it.
Well, so I'll give you one instance which I have yet to really address because it just kind of portrays the closed-mindedness of so many people out there. Is when I was in WWE, I once took a photo where I was wearing a T-shirt. I don't know if you've seen this photo circulating. It's something I still have up on my Instagram, and it's something along the lines of, let me try to find it so I can quote it correctly. Where is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen this or not, really.
Let me see.
That fan base is amazing, though, too. I mean, if they like you, they're very supportive of the person, the talent, and all. It's an amazing company, WWE, and their WWE universe.
I'm having I have not so great service. Like people are like reading it and okay, here it is. So when I was in WWE, I posed with a shirt on, and it said, "Why be racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic when you could just be quiet?" And my whole point, with this it was during the month of June, which is LGBTQ month. Mm-hmm. And I said, spread love, not hate, which is still 100% of what I stand for. And everything that was expressed on the shirt, why be racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic when you could just be quiet, still holds true. But it's super funny now how everyone wants to throw this at me and say, oh my gosh, can you believe how she flipped, going from wearing this T-shirt to now being transphobic upon hearing my comments made on Fox about the trans athlete issue. And to me, people have just lost complete sight of what it means to be transphobic. Because by me expressing the need to stand up for women's rights within their space in the athletic world, and, when not allowing men to infiltrate that world, because they identify as women, I do agree with. And that's something that I think a lot of women would agree with, and a lot of men who have already reached out to me agree with. But now people are throwing the transphobic word at me, saying, oh, well, now you're transphobic. And honestly, it's lost all of its meaning to me, because I'm not somebody who has any hate towards any one type of group. I embrace everybody. I think everybody should be able to live happy and how they deem to be the best method for their lives. But I also think standing up for women is very important to me. And it just, that's the thing that we just talked about. It's hard to find a happy medium with people because they are closed-minded. And most of the people that are using the transphobic word really have no idea what it means, because they're obviously not listening to what I'm saying.
No, they're not. And that's good. Very good issue to bring up, and a good point, because you're not saying anything mean or hateful toward the person. You're talking about an issue that it's about. It's an issue, not the person, you have a right to live your life the way you want to live it, as long as you're not hurting anyone, fine. But when it becomes that this is a issue with sports, and when you have these women athletes not being able to get scholarships, not being able to win events, because you have somebody that, could be said it has an advantage because of what they're doing and all. So it's about an issue, not about a person. But people will not you could still disagree, but people will not understand that. They just all of a sudden, oh my gosh, oh look what she said, or look now what she's saying and all, and they'll just attack you because you're making a good point, and then they don't know what else to say to combat that, so they go after you personally. Not you specifically, but I mean in general when things like this happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the where a man is stronger, faster, more athletic than women. Like, that's just how it is. So it's just tough, because it's not about you choosing to live your life one way or another. It's just then deciding that you want to cross course, to compete against who you're going to absolutely dominate. But worked hard for many years to reach the level that they have.
Yeah, and then they're going to fight, and that is going to be it's a total mismatch. It really is a mismatch. I remember, now this is how old I am, but I remember when they had the great Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, the big tennis match way back when, I believe it was the late 60s, early 70s, and you still had some rule changes to sort of help the woman in that regard going against the man. And things like that will happen because when you have man against woman, not every situation, of course, but when you're generally speaking, overall, the men are bigger, faster, stronger. We see it in basketball, what they're able to do. And that doesn't take away anything from the women and what they can do because they're excellent athletes. But it's just the body chemistry, the way it's made up. And I could talk to you about this for a long time. I do want to ask you some fun stuff as well. So I'm curious, Charly, is there anything fun to do in Huntington, West Virginia?
Oh, Huntington, West Virginia. Doing puzzles on my living room coffee table.
And this is curious. Wow, I didn't know this. Is it fair to say, if you did not know Tony Khan, you might not have landed up in WWE?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I would have ended up in WWE because it was never on my radar. It was never on my radar to, apply to WWE. I was a fan in middle school, but I hadn't been a fan since. I was more in the traditional sports world, and that was the route I intended to go down. I simultaneously had a job offer to be a news anchor in Washington, D.C. at the Fox-owned and operated station there. And I opted to also then get a job offer from WWE after the introduction, I made the introduction through the time I was backstage with Tony. So, yeah, that was all kind of, the way that happened was not intended, but it was a great opportunity. I'm so thankful to have had it. And, in fact, Tony, since I got the job at OutKick, has already reached out to me and said he wants to be a guest on the show that's launching this fall. So Tony is still a very close friend of mine, and love him to death.
Oh, that's so cool. And then, Charly, were there ever any discussions or talks of, hey, maybe you could do something for AEW?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, Tony has always left the door open there. I've been very busy, and ESPN wasn't so keen on letting me do other opportunities while I was under their roof. Potentially now. But, then there's also the idea of Endeavor, who owns UFC, who I already work for, now owns WWE. So, listen, I wouldn't be surprised to see some type of crossover happening with another wrestling company at some point down the road. I mean, who's to say, right?
Yeah, you're so good, because I was just going to transition into that too, because as you work in a reporter for UFC events and formerly with WWE, Charly Caruso, and they had this big Endeavor deal, it's amazing to see how you have two giant companies like that merging, and I think they're both going to still run separately, but it's more about the branding, it's more about the sponsorships, it's more about making a bigger company overall, and TV rights and things like that for each one. I really see that as how it's going. I was wondering your thoughts too, if you could expand a little more, and we'll wrap this up, but expand a little more on your thoughts when all of a sudden you hear the news, Endeavor, now WWE, UFC merge.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I mean, when you look at both brands and how well that they run their own independent operations, and then just think, okay, they're already super strong on their own, but now that you have the resources to combine forces, whether, I don't know how that's going to look, but I have to imagine there'll be some type of crossover in some areas, maybe through the use of certain talent or event spaces or piggybacking off one another. Let's say there's a UFC event the same weekend of WrestleMania. Who's to say? I don't know. There's so many. The options really are endless, but they're gonna be even stronger than ever. Both brands. So that's really cool to see, and nothing but respect for everyone over at WWE, and also, of course, everyone at my current employer of UFC. So I'm excited to see what's in store.
It really is exciting, and obviously maybe we'll see you again in WWE just because of what's happening now with this merger, even if it's just a one-time or two-time situation.
Yeah, or who knows, maybe even because of the connections, maybe even incorporating some segments into the show that I'll be launching this fall. Maybe there's an opportunity to have some of the folks from WWE come on the show at some point and share some opinions on whatever issue we're talking about that day, or people from UFC. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and it's exciting for me.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and I have two more quick questions for you, and we'll end this. And I appreciate your time so much. Enjoy talking with you. And it's interesting to me because there was an opportunity that didn't happen. Give me the background, if a little bit, doesn't have to be the full story, but just you and Zelina Vega almost got in the ring together when in WWE, and it was something that maybe you were interested in trying. Am I on the right path there with that? And is that something that still lends itself to that maybe someday, even MMA, did you even ever have an interest in getting in there and competing?
Yeah, well, I trained in Muay Thai when I was in college. I wasn't so serious about it. It was more of just a function of getting in really great shape, and I knew that, training in MMA or, the different tasks that make up MMA are the ultimate workout. So I always, and I'm very feisty. I've gotten in a few scraps, and won. Please put that in there, and won. But I never actually thought about getting into MMA professionally, nothing like that. But as far as WWE went, there was the ongoing storyline with Zelina Vega, myself, Angel Garza. And it was a segment that a lot of people really enjoyed. We always got feedback from, Paul Heyman as an example. He was always a huge force behind the scenes that was helping to drive storylines and coach talent. He was always helpful there. And then also, just from fans, feedback on Twitter and Instagram, wherever it may have you. People always wanted more of that. And it feels like we were always so close, but we never got the payoff that would have made the storyline great. But you see a lot of that in WWE. There's a lot of storylines that get pushed 75% of the way, but then you don't get that ultimate payoff that you're looking for. So no, we never got to that point. But Zelina and I always had so much fun just working off one another, playing off each other. She's super talented. And I think it would have been awesome because I am very athletic. We all know that. So to really be able to push myself a step further than just being someone that holds the microphone backstage or sits at a pay-per-view panel, to have something, in the ring would have been incredible. I would have loved it, and I still would love it. So that was the thing with WWE is I always was looking for a little bit more, and I felt like at some point the role had been capped for me there, and I still wanted to grow, but there's such a ceiling, at certain places, and I feel like I had reached that ceiling by the end of my time with WWE. So, but who's to say that something won't present itself in the future? And if it does, I'm all ears.
And that's so great, and you do such an awesome job. And just to mention about Zelina Vega as we get out of here, they just had a big show, WWE Backlash in Puerto Rico, and it was a huge success, and she had a big title match, and the crowd went nuts for her. She was back in Puerto Rico, and she even emotionally, she was crying. And what a performance she put on. Good athlete. It was just really nice to see. And in closing, here's the last question for you. I was curious, just if you could name, I know there's many, but some of your favorites, some of the fun you had in WWE, some of the people there, some of the talent that you worked with that come to your mind and all. It's like, oh, wow, I had so much fun. And I know you had fun with a lot of them, but I'm just curious who is on your list when I say that.
Yeah, okay, so let me really think about it. I love doing Raw Talk with R-Truth.
Oh, that was amazing. I loved watching. That was one of my favorite shows. They changed the whole format, but when you did it with R-Truth, he's amazing. He's so much fun.
Honestly, I've seen it since, and it's nothing compared to when R-Truth and I did it together. And I think everyone could agree with that. That's the thing is, when you find someone that you just have instant chemistry with, which we did, it's hard to really top that. So yeah, R-Truth was always phenomenal. That was always a really fun show that we got to just be ourselves on and make it fun with the guests. So I really enjoyed that. Always enjoyed doing the pay-per-view panels with Booker T, and I forget who else was on it, but who else did I really enjoy?
Did you have JBL on those?
Yeah, JBL was on it, Booker T. Who else was on it?
Jerry Lawler?
Jerry Lawler, yes. And then I loved working with the women, too. Like, I always loved, Nia Jackson.
Nia Jackson, Shayna.
Yes, Shayna.
On Raw Talk, that was great. That was great chemistry you all had.
Oh, God, so much fun. And then Charlotte, I still, have, I've maintained a friendship with.
You know, Charlotte just did Cornhole. American Cornhole League had a big event here in South Florida, and they had celebrities, and she was one of the celebrities in the event.
Honestly,
I just covered that.
Honestly, all the women was so fun. I remember being a part of, the Total Divas season for a bit there. That was always a great time. Lots of good memories from there. Carmella and I still keep in, relative touch. So, yeah, I can't say enough good things about the women's division and everyone there. And, it's interesting just to watch the product now because it's so different than what it was when I was there. You're seeing so many new faces, so many of the younger faces that have been introduced into WWE, and even faces that weren't even on the radar when I was there. So yeah, I there's a lot of people that I still have a decent keep in decent touch with. Who if I had the opportunity to see and go grab a few drinks, I'm sure we'd have a great time.
Well, thank you for all your time, and I appreciate it so much, and all the best with OutKick. And I'll give you the last word. Whatever you want to say, closing out about OutKick, about your social media, please have at it.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited. I think people are going to be, it's going to be a very refreshing take on a morning show that I don't think even exists right now in the media landscape, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm open to any and all ideas. If there's someone out there who there's something they want to see that they feel like they're not getting from anywhere else, please feel free to reach out on social media or whatever avenue. I don't want to give out my email or anything, but
No.
I'm all ears. I just want to give the people what they want.
Thank you, Charly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jim. Nice to talk to you as always.